Voiceover, have you ever been told that cortisol is your enemy? That it's the hormone that's making you gain belly fat, wreck your sleep, and age faster? Well, what if I told you that's not entirely true? What if the real problem isn't cortisol itself, but something much more subtle? Something that's been overlooked by almost everyone, including most well-meaning health advice. Today, we're going to uncover what's really happening inside your body, why your hormone story isn't as simple as good versus bad, and how understanding this could change the way you feel every single day. Hi, I'm Dr. Nimra Raza. I've spent years studying metabolism, hormones, and the science behind chronic stress and weight gain. I focus on translating complex research into practical insights you can use. And this topic, cortisol, is one of the most misunderstood areas in modern health. Getting it right isn't just about weight or stress. It's about energy, sleep, brain health, and long-term metabolic balance. Here's what most people get wrong. They see cortisol as a villain, a hormone that's bad and must be suppressed at all costs. They try endless supplements, adaptogens, meditation apps, or stress hacks, thinking that if they just lower cortisol, everything will magically improve. But studies consistently show that cortisol itself is not the enemy. In fact, it's vital. Cortisol helps you wake up in the morning, manage inflammation, mobilize energy during exercise, and even regulate your immune system. The real problem, it's not that you have too much cortisol. The real issue is dysregulated cortisol signaling, when your body can't use it effectively, when it's out of sync with your natural rhythms, or when other hormonal and metabolic factors block its action. And this misalignment is what's silently driving fatigue, stubborn weight gain, poor sleep, and chronic stress responses. Let's break this down. First, let's talk about cortisol's natural rhythm. Cortisol isn't meant to be high all day. It follows a precise circadian pattern, highest in the morning to wake you up, gradually declining throughout the day, lowest at night so you can sleep. Think of it as your body's internal alarm clock. If this rhythm is disrupted, you may feel wired at night and groggy in the morning, even if your cortisol levels appear normal on a lab test. This is where it gets interesting. Chronic stress, poor sleep, blood sugar fluctuations, and inflammation don't just raise cortisol. They confuse your body's response to it. This is called cortisol resistance. Your tissues become less sensitive, much like insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes. So your body is producing cortisol, but it's not being used effectively where it's needed. The result? Fatigue, brain fog, cravings, and stubborn belly fat. Next, let's connect this to metabolism. Cortisol interacts closely with insulin. When cortisol signaling is off, it can worsen insulin resistance, making it harder to burn fat and regulate blood sugar. It also increases appetite for energy-dense foods and may favor fat storage around the abdomen. But notice, cortisol didn't cause this alone. It's the combination of poor diet, sleep disruption, and chronic inflammation that creates the environment where cortisol's effects become problematic. Here's what most doctors don't explain clearly. Inflammation is a key moderator. When inflammation is chronically elevated, it interferes with cortisol signaling. This means that even if your cortisol levels look normal, your body's ability to respond to stress and regulate metabolism is impaired. Essentially, inflammation hijacks cortisol, and inflammation itself is driven by diet, stress, sedentary lifestyle, infections, and sometimes even environmental toxins. Another overlooked factor is the role of the HPA axis, the hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal axis, which controls cortisol release. Dysregulation here doesn't always mean too much or too little cortisol. It often manifests as erratic pulses, delayed peaks, or mistimed drops, which can create the same symptoms people blame on high cortisol. Finally, cortisol interacts with other hormones: thyroid, estrogen, testosterone, and growth hormone. If any of these are out of balance, cortisol's effect on energy, mood, and fat metabolism is amplified. So, blaming cortisol alone is like blaming your car for running poorly.
when the real issue might be a combination of low fuel efficiency, worn brakes, and a misaligned engine. So, what can you do? The goal isn't to lower cortisol, but to restore healthy cortisol function. First, focus on circadian rhythm. Get sunlight in the morning, avoid bright lights at night, and maintain a consistent sleep schedule. Second, manage inflammation. A diet rich in colorful vegetables, omega-3 fats, and minimally processed foods supports better hormonal signaling. Third, balance blood sugar. Protein-rich breakfasts, fiber, and avoiding frequent refined carb spikes help reduce cortisol resistance. Lifestyle strategies matter too. Moderate exercise improves cortisol sensitivity, but overtraining can worsen it. Mindful stress management, deep breathing, and even short walks can improve HPA axis balance without the need for extreme interventions. And finally, supporting other hormones, thyroid, sex hormones, and growth hormone through proper nutrition, sleep, and targeted medical support amplifies cortisol's benefits rather than letting it become a problem. The biggest mistake people make is chasing cortisol suppression. Many supplements marketed to lower cortisol have minimal effect and can actually disrupt your body's natural rhythm. Others rely too heavily on short-term hacks without addressing underlying inflammation, sleep, or metabolic issues. If you have adrenal disorders, thyroid disease, or are on certain medications, it's essential to work with a healthcare professional before making changes. Responsible management always comes first. When cortisol signaling is restored, you experience steady energy, improved sleep, reduced cravings, better weight management, and even enhanced brain clarity. Long-term, this supports metabolic health, cardiovascular resilience, and longevity. Your body learns to respond appropriately to stress instead of being trapped in a chronic fight or flight mode. Essentially, you reclaim control over your energy, metabolism, and overall health. So let's be clear, cortisol itself is not the enemy. The real problem is disrupted signaling, inflammation, and misaligned lifestyle factors that prevent your body from using cortisol effectively. Understanding this changes the game. No more fear, no more chasing pills or quick fixes, just science-backed strategies to restore balance. Next time someone tells you cortisol is the villain, you'll know the truth. It's a vital ally, but only when your body can use it properly. Start with small, consistent steps: sleep, nutrition, movement, and stress management. And over time, you'll notice real transformation in energy, weight, and overall health. If you found this insight valuable, I invite you to watch my next video on how insulin resistance secretly sabotages your metabolism. It's a perfect complement to what we covered today. Remember, it's not about fighting your hormones, it's about helping them work for you.